If you're wondering which weapons are actually worth using in VV Ultimatum, you've come to the right place. With so many options available for Quincy, Shinigami, and Hollow players, it can be difficult to figure out which weapons deserve your resources and which ones are better left untouched. That's exactly what we're covering in today's tier list. We'll be ranking the best weapons for every race, talking about their strengths, weaknesses, and the types of builds they work best with. Whether you're a brand new player looking for a strong starting weapon or a more experienced player trying to optimize your damage and survivability, this guide should help you make smarter choices and avoid wasting time on underwhelming options. Let's jump straight into the rankings and see which weapons dominate the current meta. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking weapons in VV Ultimatum. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, rifle and rapier. You know a weapon is in a weird spot when it looks useful at first glance, but the more you play with it, the more you start asking questions. That is pretty much the story of our C tier weapons. They are not completely unusable, and they definitely have situations where they can work, but compared to the stronger options in VV Ultimatum, they often feel like they are making you work overtime for results that other weapons get much more easily. Let's start with rifle. On paper, this weapon seems like a perfect fit for Quincy players. Quincy already excels at range combat, so giving them even more reach sounds like a great idea. The problem is that range alone does not win fights. Rifle suffers from below average damage, which means you can land shots consistently and still feel like your opponent has plenty of opportunities to recover, reposition, or simply rush you down before you finish the job. That does not mean rifle is completely hopeless. If you are the type of player who enjoys playing carefully, keeping your distance and avoiding risky close range trades, rifle can still feel comfortable. The extra range gives you room to breathe and lets you learn enemy patterns without constantly being in danger. Just be prepared to spend a little more time finishing fights than some of the higher tier weapons would require. Right now, rifle also has another problem. Without more advanced weapon data or exact damage numbers available, it is difficult to justify ranking it any higher. It feels like a weapon that is waiting for a future patch, future discoveries, or some hidden synergy to unlock its full potential. Until then, it remains a decent but underwhelming choice. Next up is rapier, a weapon that feels like it desperately wants to be cooler than it actually is. It offers respectable speed and decent reach, which sounds promising. Unfortunately, the low damage once again becomes the biggest issue. While you are busy poking enemies multiple times, sword users are often achieving similar or better results with fewer successful hits. It is one of those weapons that makes you feel productive without necessarily making you effective. That said, rapier is not without its audience. Players who enjoy fast attacks, precise spacing, and carefully controlling engagements may still have fun with it. The weapon rewards patience and accuracy, but for the average player looking for a reliable all-around option, there are simply better choices available. Sword provides a stronger balance of offense and consistency, while longsword and spear offer safer reach with fewer compromises. Rapier can work, but it often feels like choosing hard mode when easier options are sitting right next to it. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, greatsword, hammer, Talon's hammer, and club. A good B tier weapon is the kind of weapon that makes you say, okay, this is actually pretty strong, right before reminding you why it did not make it into A tier. These weapons can absolutely carry games, win duels, and feel amazing in the right hands. The problem is that they usually come with one noticeable drawback that keeps them from being the safest recommendation for every player. Let's start with greatsword. If your brain automatically activates whenever you see giant weapons and giant damage numbers, this one is probably calling your name already. Greatsword delivers exactly what you would expect. Excellent range and heavy-hitting attacks that can make opponents regret every mistake they make. Landing a clean hit feels satisfying, and punishing predictable movement with this weapon can be downright brutal. The catch, of course, is speed, or more accurately, the lack of it. VV Ultimatum often rewards mobility, consistency, and quick confirms, and greatsword does not always fit comfortably into that environment. Every missed swing feels like sending an invitation to your opponent that says, please punish me immediately. Because of that, the weapon tends to perform better in the hands of confident players who understand spacing and timing rather than newer players who are still learning matchups. Next, we have Hammer, another heavy weapon that focuses on raw impact rather than elegance. This is not the weapon for players who want lightning-fast combos or flashy movement. Hammer is all about making every successful hit matter. When you connect, opponents feel it, and the pressure created by that threat alone can force mistakes from players who panic under pressure. The slower attack speed does require cleaner timing though. You cannot simply throw attacks out and hope for the best. Hammer rewards patience and punishes impatience. It becomes especially useful when facing opponents who like to overextend or take unnecessary risks because a single well-timed punish can completely shift momentum in your favor. One thing Hammer does particularly well is supporting posture-focused combat. When opponents are forced into blocking situations or awkward trades, Hammer can make those exchanges very uncomfortable. Still, for general Quincy progression, it lacks the flexibility offered by some of the faster or longer-reaching weapons sitting above it in the rankings. Then we arrive at Club, a weapon that feels like it was created specifically for players who enjoy making their opponents uncomfortable. Instead of focusing purely on damage per second, Club puts much more emphasis on posture pressure. Every hit threatens to break an opponent's rhythm and force them into defensive situations they would rather avoid. As the blunt counterpart to Greatsword, Club shares many of the same strengths and weaknesses. When your attacks connect, the pressure is real. Opponents quickly learn to respect your swings because ignoring them can lead to serious posture damage. However, just like most heavy weapons, the experience becomes much less exciting when those attacks fail to connect. Missed opportunities can make the weapon feel surprisingly clunky. Overall, Club earns its place in B tier by filling a valuable niche without being universally powerful. Players who enjoy patiently dismantling defensive opponents will find plenty to like here. It is not as smooth or reliable as Sword or Spear, and it is definitely more specialized than the top tier choices, but if you lean into its posture breaking strengths, Club can be far more dangerous than many players expect. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Spear and Longsword. This is the point in the tier list where the weapons stop feeling situational and start feeling genuinely reliable. A tier weapons are the ones that can carry you through most situations without constantly reminding you about their weaknesses. They are strong, consistent, and easy to justify investing time into, even if they fall just short of the absolute best options available. Let's talk about Spear first. If your idea of a good fight involves keeping opponents at arm's length while making them question every step forward, Spear is probably going to feel amazing. Its range is one of the biggest advantages any Quincy weapon can have. You can poke, punish, and control space extremely well, which naturally complements the faction's ranged combat identity. Many fights become much easier when you can hit your opponent before they can even think about reaching you. The real strength of Spear comes from players who understand spacing. If you know how to maintain distance and force enemies to approach on your terms, this weapon can feel incredibly oppressive. It becomes even stronger when paired with Shumpo speed or Shumpo stamina bonuses, since extra mobility helps you constantly reposition and preserve that valuable range advantage. The downside is that Spear becomes much less comfortable once opponents successfully force close-range engagements. If you lose control of spacing, the weapon loses a large part of what makes it special. Moving on to Longsword, this weapon feels like the responsible older sibling of Sword. It sacrifices some damage in exchange for additional reach, creating a playstyle that focuses more on consistency and control than raw aggression. The extra range may not sound game-changing at first, but during actual fights, it often allows you to start engagements more safely and avoid unnecessary risks. One of the reasons Longsword earns such a high ranking is how comfortable it feels across a wide variety of situations. Players who enjoy the balanced nature of Sword but wish they had a little more room to work with will likely feel right at home here. The lower damage does mean fights can take slightly longer, but the improved reach often helps compensate by allowing you to win exchanges more consistently. Longsword also scales nicely with weapon damage bonuses, which help reduce the impact of its lower base damage. While it does not quite match Sword's overall efficiency and simplicity, it remains one of the safest and most dependable weapons available. For careful players who value positioning, spacing, and steady performance over flashy damage numbers, Longsword is an easy recommendation and a well-deserved member of A tier. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sword. Sometimes, the strongest weapon in a game is not the one with the biggest damage numbers, the longest range, or the flashiest mechanics. Sometimes, the strongest weapon is simply the one that never lets you down. That is exactly why Sword claims the S tier spot. It is the most balanced spirit weapon available to Quincy players, offering reliable performance in almost every situation without forcing you to play around a major weakness. While other weapons excel in one area and struggle in another, Sword remains consistently effective no matter what challenge is in front of you. What makes Sword so valuable is its flexibility. Whether you are working through lieutenant missions, farming progression experience, or learning how Quincy spacing works in real combat, Sword always feels comfortable. It does not require perfect positioning like Spear, nor does it demand the patience needed for heavier weapons. You can focus on improving your fundamentals instead of constantly fighting against your weapon's limitations. That makes it an excellent choice while waiting to unlock your evolved spirit weapon and one of the safest investments for long-term progression. Sword also benefits nicely from general weapon damage bonuses provided by clans such as Kurosaki and Richter, allowing it to scale well without needing a highly specialized build. Most importantly, it performs effectively in both player versus environment content and early player versus player encounters. No matter your experience level or preferred playstyle, Sword delivers dependable results, and that level of consistency is exactly what earns it the top spot in the Quincy Spirit Weapon tier list. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.